Today you see a pretty neat dress and a neat top from the same pattern. Little ruched area around the bust, super pretty, very unique. Some lining going on around here, super fun make. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I have some neat sewing to share with you. The construction method here is quite a lot different than other things that you've seen me sew. It's not the typical order of events either. I'm doing things a little bit different as well just because of my fabric choice. What I'm talking about is a brand new release from Sinclair Patterns called Fiesta, top and dress. Super pretty. You can see the line out here. Usually what I focus on first is the neckline and the front detail because that just jumps at you straight away and that's what drew me in. V neckline, there's two heights here, one lower, one a little higher. I've sewn one of each so you can see the difference. And then there is a center front seam on that bodice, it has a ruched area. This is finished with an elastic inside, very, very easy. And the front is lined. The back isn't lined, the back is finished with a binding. But you see that on one of my versions, I did line the whole bodice, which means I changed the construction method. Although from the outside, you will never know. This bodice is meant to hit a little above the natural waist, not exactly at the natural waist. You can leave the armhole sleeveless. In that case, you have another cut line on the bodice to cut it narrower, add some binding there. That's what I've done with my dress. Or you can have flatter sleeves that are short, or just a regular sleeve, short, 3/4 long. So lots of options for the sleeves right there. Below that waist seam, there is a peplum. Well, it can be a peplum if you're making the top, or it can be a dress and then it's a skirt. There's two lengths there, one above the knee, one below the knee. And what's cool about this skirt is that it has a center front pleat, which adds something different. It doesn't really add a lot of bulk there. Nice A-line skirt, nice amount of volume. I wouldn't say it's a full circle skirt. It's less than that. So it's perfect. Love that. Because the Fiesta dress and top is brand new at Sinclair Patterns, it'll be 27% off through the 26th of April. But if you're a viewer of this channel, you have an extended period after that where you can also keep getting 27% off with a code that I'll add once the release sale is over. I will add what code you need to use to keep getting that 27% off through the 31st of May. So you won't see the code right now. All the information is going to be at the top of the comment section, pinned, super easy to find, and also in the description box. If you do click on my affiliate link, you don't pay anything extra. It just means it takes you directly to the website and I get a small commission back from the designer. That is one way that I make an income creating helpful content here on YouTube that you can watch for no cost. You need neat fabric for this dress. Please do not attempt to make this out of a woven fabric. It just won't fit. You need the fabric to stretch quite a nice amount, about 50% horizontally and at least 30% vertically. If you use a knit that doesn't stretch vertically, then everything's not going to fit. Your armholes are going to be tight. Your bodice is going to end up right under your bust, so it's not the idea. You have quite a wide variety of fabrics that are going to work here, like cotton lycra, double brush poly, ITY, that's what I use for one of mine. Athletic knit, swim, maybe even a sweater knit could work as well if it's got a nice amount of stretch. Not all of them do, so make sure you check. Rayon spandex, modal spandex, bamboo spandex, these will work, but they're going to end up looser and longer than what you think just because they just stretch so much. Not my favorite types of fabrics, but I know a lot of people like them, so I'll just mention that. Now for the binding at the back, you need to make sure that the fabric you use to make that binding has a nice amount of spandex so it doesn't stretch out and deform over time. And then for the lining piece that you're going to have on the front, you can use the same main fabric if you're using a lightweight fabric, or you can use tricot knit lining that is actually meant to be lining for knit fabrics. I also like to use ITY. I'm using self-lining for my dress, and for my top, I'm using ITY for the front here. You need a small amount of elastic to do the ruching here in the center front. You can use either 1/4 inch elastic or 3/8 inch elastic. Make sure it's nice quality, that it bounces back to its original length. So that's important. And you're going to see in my hack, because I'm lining the whole bodice of my dress, that I'm going to use a little bit on the back as well, on the back neckline. So you need a little piece. You don't need a huge amount of elastic right here. You also need a small amount of tricot knit interfacing to stabilize the front V neckline. That's important as well. The sizing is great from 0 to 30 US up to a 63-inch hip. There's also height files, petite, regular, and tall. So that is the file that you choose first according to your height. And then you go and check your circumferences, plot them down, choose your size. About the ease, negative ease at the bust to keep it all nice and fitted, the neckline not gaping, about 1 5/8 of an inch of negative ease at the bust. At the waist, 0 ease. Remember, this is a neat garment. It's supposed to be fitted. It's going to stretch. That's why you have stretchy fabric. And then at the hips, you're going to have plenty of ease because of the shape of the skirt. So don't worry too much about the fit of the hips. Here are my measurements right here at this point. I'm sewing a size 14 US with a toe file. Now, looking at the bodice pieces and that it says it's meant to hit slightly above the waist, I still thought I needed to add 5/8 of an inch of length to my bodice. Otherwise, sure, my bodice was going to end up right under my bust. And the empire cut is not what I'm aiming for ever, if ever. And that was not intended as the style of the dress. So for my body and everything, even though I'm sewing the toe file and everything, I still made that small change. Added 5/8 of an inch to all my bodice pieces, the front, the back, and the front lining piece as well, because the front lining piece is a separate piece. It's not the same as the main front. So that's all I did. I chose the skirt above the knee and that was the perfect length. I'm going to show you quite a bit of the process of sewing my dress in ITY. I'm showing you how I line the bodice completely, how I stabilize the back with elastic. This is something that I do consistently. I will always line a bodice of a dress made of ITY. I just think it's too lightweight to leave it. And even though the pattern has you line the front, I also wanted to line the back, which I think ended up being super easy to do. You're going to see it was super easy. So let's see. It's recommended in the pattern that you stabilize the V neckline. So this is the wrong side of the fabric. There are 2 pieces. It's not on the fold because there's going to be a center front seam. And I'm just using a little strip of interfacing that I cut out myself, tricot knit interfacing. It's stretchy, but not that stretchy. It'll just make this neckline stay and conserve its shape and not stretch out over time. These are the bodice pieces for the Fiesta dress from Sinclair Patterns. This is the front. I've just shown you that I've stabilized the neckline there with interfacing. That's the black area. There is going to be a center front seam. It's slightly longer because it's going to be ruched. I have a little piece of elastic here. There is a pattern piece to help you cut the correct length for the size that you need. That's going to be stretched over here so that it ruches that section. Front lining here, this is shorter. It's going to match that length once that section is ruched, so they're not the same pattern pieces there. You're supposed to just have 1 layer for the back, and you're supposed to finish the neckline with binding on the back, but I'm going to do it a little bit different. I want to line this whole bodice. I do want 2 layers on the back as well, so I cut 2. And to stabilize the neckline, I'm going to use a little piece of elastic in the seam, and that's going to keep it from gaping. So my bodice is going to be fully lined, and I want to do that because this is ITY, and I feel more support, and it just looks better with the whole thing lined. I always line all my ITY bodices, so that's why I'm doing mine a little bit different. I'm going to show you how. Here are the skirt pieces for the Fiesta dress. They have quite a lot of volume here, A-lined. The front one is wider because there's going to be a pleat in the center. So there's a little mark right there to just sew down that pleat. I'm going to show you. The back is just normal cut on the fold. So the skirt will be pretty easy to put together. Once that pleat is done, it's just putting them one on top of each other and sewing side seams. This is the front bodice, the one that has the neckline interfaced right there. We had to do a center front seam. I have already done that with a serger, super simple. Now a little below there, you'll find the line on the pattern. I've got it marked in red there with a friction pen. This is where we need to pin the top of the elastic right there. And then you can see that this elastic is shorter. So I need to stretch this elastic to reach the bottom here where the waist is. I'm going to leave it about 3/8 of an inch above that just so it doesn't get caught in the seam allowance for the skirt later. And now I need to stretch this while I sew it on to the seam allowance with a zigzag. So I don't want to go beyond the seam allowance. I want to keep it right there on the edge just to hold this elastic in place. And that's what's going to make this center front of the bodice ruche. I have a medium-sized zigzag. I practiced already to see that it was the correct size for this 1/4 inch wide elastic. Now that that is sewn onto the seam allowance, we need to give it a good steam. When we stretch this is going to end up a little longer than what it was originally. So by steaming it, we sort of shrink it back into place right there. I have done some very basic seams directly on the serger after pressing the center front seam. Now it's super important to steam it a lot because once you sew this elastic in, if you look at it, it doesn't look like it's being gathered or ruched at all. But once you steam it, it really does. So very important. After that, because I'm going to line the bodice entirely, I've just put them right sides together with the back, and I've sewn the side seams, I've sewn the shoulder seams. This is the main bodice, that is the lining bodice. And now all I'm going to do is put them one inside the other and then match it up on the necklines. I'm going to flip the lining bodice right sides out and then slide it in here and match it all up at the neckline. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the back neckline because I am going to stabilize it with some elastic. The bodice is here right sides together and we're going to pin them at the neckline. This is the back neckline after sewing the whole thing. I did something similar to what I did with the center front ruching, actually the same. I measured this, how long this back neckline was, and I cut my elastic around 88, 89%, so it's a little bit shorter. I matched up here on the edges, close to the shoulder seams, and I was stretching the elastic as I sewed this on with a zigzag. This is going to help it stay in shape, not gape over time and all of that. I wouldn't just sew 2 layers of neat fabric and just flip it on a neckline. The front is stabilized with interfacing, but there was nothing here, because this was supposed to have a binding and you weren't supposed to line the whole thing, but that's how I'm going to get around it. I'm going to flip it the other way around. Here is the V. I had snipped into there, so that's why it lies nicely. And this is the back neckline with the elastic inside. Looks messy now, but I'm going to give it a nice press, align the armholes. For the armholes, I'm just going to baste them all around the raw area so that it acts as one piece. And then I'm going to finish the binding just as I would the original method. If I was going to sew on a sleeve, I would do the same. I just baste it and then sew on the sleeve. So now I have a bodice ready that's on the round at the bottom to sew on the skirt here. This is the center of the front skirt where there's going to be a pleat. There was a line right there, and then there's another one, but that second line doesn't really matter because it's just going to be the fold later. So from the fold right here, the second line, that's what I've drawn right there. And I'm going to just stitch it closed. It'll be an inverted box pleat. So that's why I've got some pins there, and I'm just going to get that done. I'm going to do it with a long stitch length because this is going to be removed later. There is a little seam of the box pleat. You can put your fingers inside there. It's just a basting stitch. I'm going to remove it at the very end. And there is the volume of the pleat distributed to either of the seams right here on the wrong side. Little basting stitch on top to keep it in place. And now I can just put this front skirt together with the back skirt, sew the side seams, and sew this onto the bodice on the round. Here is my dress. I love this print. I love the colors in the print. I'm so happy I found that in my collection. I bought this fabric in Chile, one of my many trips to the fabric district in Santiago. And it's really cool. It's got like a type of magenta or dark pink in there with the black and the white. I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a zebra print, but small. Here is the lower V neckline option right there. And this is the ruched area with the elastic inside. It's all covered with the lining, so the elastic is never going to touch your skin. So that is amazing. You can see the main fabric on the back because I do have a fully lined bodice and I do have elastic in there. I sewed on the binding as per the instructions. It's really easy binding. I have a whole masterclass on binding that I'm going to link for you down below with the minutes on where you can find the technique for this one in that video. I've already filmed it in great detail, so I don't film that over and over again because that can get pretty repetitive. So that finished it really nicely. I have 2 layers here, but because the fabric is so lightweight, it doesn't really interfere with anything. And then here is the skirt sewn on with a little pleat in the middle. Very nice. Now, something the pattern mentions that I never do, I don't put elastic in my waist seam. I've not only seen this in Sinclair Patterns, I've seen this with other brands as well that use this elastic to stabilize the waist. Keeping it consistent with my aversion to elastic on my skin, and that's why I don't do shirring as well. I could not have an elastic touch my midsection there directly on my skin. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even dream about being able to wear the garment like that. So I don't use elastic. I just sew it, and I have never had an issue with my fabric or with my skirt collapsing or anything like that. So it matched 1-to-1 all the way around, and that was absolutely fine for me. This is my Fiesta dress from Sinclair Patterns. Gorgeous, lovely ITY print here. I love the design of this dress. Mine is sleeveless, but you can also do sleeves. Neat dress, so super comfortable. Up closer you can see that there's a bodice seam that is meant to hit slightly above the natural waist. I did lengthen my bodice by 5/8 of an inch to achieve that, otherwise it would have been too short. The fit is outstanding. Skirt has a lovely A-line shape with a center front pleat right there. I think it looks super pretty. And now the most important thing is the ruching at the center front. This is the lower V neckline option. There is a higher V neckline you can also choose, but that center front ruching is amazing. You're going to see it closer now. Look at this, is an elastic sewn into that seam and it creates all that. Of course you would see it more if this was a solid, but I just could not get away from this print. This sleeveless version is finished with a binding, same fabric. I actually lined the whole bodice here and it's such a lovely dress. The colors here are amazing. I actually have a jacket that matches the pink tone in there. That's quite subtle. I think would be stunning, and it's also going to match black. So let's see it on with some toppers, but on its own, it's just precious. I love it. Mine's a size 14 toe file. Here I am holding a little black jacket. It's made out of linen, it's short sleeve, and it's sort of cropped just a little below my natural waist, which is perfect for a fit and flare style like this one. I think it looks super darling, and it's something I want to wear immediately. As soon as I have a chance, I'm going to be wearing this exactly like this. And it's so pretty. The jacket being shorter just doesn't get in the way with the volume of the skirt. I think it looks really balanced for my height, and I think it's super nice. This little jacket goes a long way with all my fit and flare dresses, and this is another way I can wear it. Really, really love it. Here is the jacket that I was talking about that matches the pink tone. I have a bag that matches as well. This jacket is nicely shaped. It's a denim style jacket but made out of linen instead. It's at the high hip, so I think it's perfect as well. Does not interfere with the volume of the dress. I would not wear a jacket that's longer and wider with a dress like this. I think it wouldn't look too great. So this is amazing. I have two toppers that go perfectly for an air-conditioned place or somewhere you just want a little extra. These two jackets are very light. They're for summer and spring, which matches the winter weather that I get over here. So I think this is perfect. As soon as I saw this ITY, I remembered I had this jacket in this color, which is amazing. So I'm glad that this pairs perfectly. Now in this episode, we're going to have two sewing segments. The second one is shorter. And with this one, I'm showing you how to sew the neckline, the back binding, how to line the front bodice only as per the tutorial. Because what you saw with the dress was my alternative going rogue, wanting to line the whole bodice. So my second version is a peplum top with a sweater knit. With this one, I'm stabilizing the shoulders, which I didn't do with my dress, just because I'm going to have sleeves now, and sweater knits don't have the most amazing recovery. So let's see how this one came together. Super easy, focusing on that neckline and lining only the front bodice. This is my sweater knit version, and for this one, I don't plan to line the whole bodice. I'm just going to line the front as per the instructions here. So what's different with this one is that I've stabilized the shoulders so that they don't stretch. They're really, really stable because I'm going to have a sleeve here. And also the recovery in most sweater knits isn't the best thing. It's not amazing. So that's what I've done with this one. Something I didn't do with my ITY dress because it was going to be sleeveless. So what I've got here is the binding piece. I put a pin in the center of the binding, matched it up to the center of the neckline. And you can see the binding is a little bit shorter. Matched it up here on the edges, and now as I sew this together, I'm going to stretch the binding slightly to match the neckline underneath. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance because that's what we're using here, and I'm using a narrow zigzag on my sewing machine so that it's a stretch stitch. I prefer doing this on the sewing machine because it's less bulk, less thread inside the neckline, but you could in essence do this on the serger if you wanted to. Seam allowance we're supposed to use is a 1/4 inch, so it's the same thing as doing it on the serger or using the 1/4 inch presser foot. Because it's curved and this binding is going to be totally on the inside, I am going to snip into the curves right here so that the seam allowance doesn't create any tension there on the back neckline, which is something I wouldn't want to do if this was a serge seam because then your whole seam could fall apart. Another reason to do it on the sewing machine. Okay, now we're just going to bring this binding all the way to the inside, fold this edge that's raw, and just fiddle with it until it's super nice. That's how it's going to look inside. I'm going to fold it, pin it, hand baste it, and then top stitch it, and that's how the back neckline is going to be finished. This is the front bodice. That's where the ruching is right here in the center. And I've got my lining piece, which is just a really lightweight knit right here, stretchy. And my knit is the same on both sides. You can't tell what's the right and what's the wrong side, though, so it doesn't matter. But if yours does have a definite difference between the right and the wrong, then you would put them right sides together. We're going to match up the V neckline right here, pin it, sew it. I'm going to sew it from the other side because that's the stable side right here. So I'm going to have the sweater knit on the top touching the presser foot and the lining at the bottom touching the feed dogs. And it's just like any other V neckline. I've got a little dot there that's going to help me pivot, and I'm using my 1/4 inch presser foot with a narrow zigzag, 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is what this pattern uses. Because all of this is so contrasting, I don't really want this black lining to be seen. So I'm going to understitch. I've got this extended. Seam allowance is underneath the lining layer right here. And I'm just going to sew on the edge. But I'm not going to go all the way to the shoulders. I'm going to leave a little bit free, like 3/8, because we still have to sandwich the back right there. This is where I snipped, so I can actually extend this and keep going. Now that that is sorted, I still have to press it, but I can finish my back now. So I'm going to bring the back and I'm going to align these right sides together right here. And the edge of the neckline is going to reach the edge of the seam. And then this lining, we're going to wrap it around like this. And that's how we're going to sew it. So we're going to end up having the lining, the back, and the main front. So again, just extend that a little bit so it's easy to see. Main front, lining front right there, that's the seam. The back goes right sides together right there. And then this wraps around snugly. And we're going to sew through 3 layers here, right there, and right there. And that's going to enclose the shoulder seams and the edge of the neckline right there. So I'm going to pin it nicely and then we'll get it sewn with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, there are the seams. Now when we flip it, that is how the back neckline is enclosed between both of the fronts right there. There you have it. So the shoulder seams are enclosed. You can see a little bit of my interfacing there, but that doesn't bother me. I have really stable shoulder seams right here. And now the rest of the construction is the same side seams. So the peplum or the skirt on the round, the sleeve, all that is the basic construction. Here is my second Fiesta. This time it's a top. I know the print is quite out there. I think a lot of people would find it too much, but I don't. It's fine. I love the colors, brown, black, beige, red. I think they suit me really well. And it's just so pretty. It's a really lightweight, really soft drapey sweater knit, which I think is perfect for this peplum over here. I think it takes the pleat beautifully without creating bulk. Very nice over here. Now my peplum is about 2 inches shorter than the peplum on the pattern. I think that would have just been too long for me, at least what I prefer. I do prefer shorter tops in general. I think they suit me better because of my height. So mine's a little bit shorter, you know, you can always customize. And for me, it's so easy to see because I put on my dress, which I already made, and then figure out where I want it to be, measure that length based on the dress, and then transfer that onto the pattern piece. So I'm not actually guessing. I actually do know where I want it to be. So that was nice. I really like it. Sleeve, regular sleeve, long sleeve over here. I always set mine on the round. I finish the bodice side seams and everything, and then I set in the sleeve. That's just how I like to do it. The binding I used for the back is a cotton lycra with a denim look. Very nice, very sturdy. It worked really well for the binding, and you just need the tiniest little piece. And for the inside, I have ITY in here. Super nice. And let me turn these right sides out so you can see how this one looks. I think it was a really fun project. I had already sewn the dress. I already knew what to do. So all the process was really relaxing. I really like the fact that it encloses the seams of the shoulders with this method. So you can see that it's super clean there. And because I had 2 layers here, I also enclosed the side seams over there. So I'm gonna have a really smooth type of seam against my midsection or my skin. I think that's really nice. I have already shown you how to do this in multiple videos. I do have a video showing you how to line bodices like this, so I'll link that for you so you can see more in depth about that. But that's something I really like doing. There is the neckline, V neckline. This is the higher neckline. There's 2 depths you can see on the pattern piece. One is higher, one is lower. And because this is for colder weather, I cut the higher one here. It's like a wider V neckline. It's really nice. I love sewing it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Doing the little snip in there was so tiny. It was just so nice. Really enjoyed sewing it. Now, there are 3 colors I could use to pair this, at least in the way I like to dress, which is black, red, and brown. There is a little bit of beige here, but I don't think it's enough in the print to look good. There's also a little bit of gray, which I think could work, but it's very minimal in the print. I tend to want to choose the colors that are most dominant here to match up the bottoms. So let's see it on. 3 skirts. I was just feeling the skirts this time, no pants. Here is my Fiesta top. This time it's a peplum top. It's the same construction. It's just that the skirt piece is shorter. This is a sweater knit, so this is my winter version. Same size, 14 with the toe file. I've got the long sleeve here. That was perfect. And my bodice is 5/8 of an inch longer, the same as it was for my dress. The sweater knit is nice, flowy, light, beautiful print. I love it. I think it's super bright, super happy. The red there matches the skirt perfectly, of course. And the details are the same. There's the center front pleat, the bodice waist right there. For this one, I have lined only the front as per the tutorial in the pattern. I have a higher V neckline here, which is not too high, not too low. It's perfect. Bend over, nothing showing. And the back is finished with a binding there. It's a little bit of a different construction for the dress and the top. I think it's perfect. Look at my black lining in there. Very nice ITY. Long sleeve, shoulder fit, sleeve fit, all perfect. And the ruching is right there in the center front. Super nice. I love the look. You can appreciate it more in real life, of course. You know, if I'd done a solid, you would see the ruching more, but the prints just make me so happy and I can't help it. I'm feeling like a skirt person, so you'll see it paired with other skirts in other colors. This is brown. There's a lot of brown in the print. I think it goes perfect. I've got some brown boots that are super old, but they're so good and they're so comfortable. I've got a red bag. I love this outfit for an autumn day. That's actually the weather that I'm headed to. I know a lot of you are going into spring and summer. So it's always nice to have a pattern that, depending on the fabric you choose, can work for winter or summer or whatever you want. And that is the case with the Fiesta right here. I love this top. And I love making sweaters that are not very traditional. Love, love, love how this turned out. Here it is paired with black. These are the only colors I think look good. Black, brown, and red, because they are the most dominant colors here in the print of the sweater knit. The gray would look strange, the beige would look strange. So I'm really happy with my booties. This is a casual outfit for me. I wear skirts on a daily basis. I don't feel like I'm dressing up just because I'm wearing a skirt. But I know not everyone feels the same way about skirts. Swap this for some black pants. Swap this for any type of pant. And you're going to look good with a peplum top. I think it's a silhouette that looks good on everyone. Love, love, love this sweater. Turned out amazing. Really enjoyed sewing these 2, summer version, winter version. I love patterns that can work for whatever. You can just make them work with your fabric choice. So it's not like it's a summer pattern or a winter pattern. It can be whatever you want. Love sweaters that are different like this. This is not the typical sweater. I think it looks really cute and it was really fun to sew up. I really love the experience of sewing the Fiesta. It's the type of dress I've already worn out. Let me show you some images. As soon as I could, I wore mine to church. I just was busting to wear it out because it's so pretty. I wore it the whole day. I even wore it to have a little nap on top of the bed. I mean, it's a dress that's super, super wearable for me, and being sleeveless is going to be amazing for forever. It's going to be amazing. Sleeveless is usually what I want. So it was really nice. My winter version with the long sleeve, also super nice. Love that top. Turned out very pretty. I love that ruching in the bust. I think it's a style that would suit a lot of people. And it's really fun to make as well. So I recommend, don't forget to check it out while it's on sale through the 26th of April. After the 26th of April, remember I'm going to have a code that will keep getting you that discount until the 31st of May. That's all from me. You're going to see me a lot this week. There's a lot of sewing coming. I have been super busy sewing. So I will see you here very soon. Bye.